the sun is shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish till the day that I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Beaver Kill River. Might even catch and release one or two. Well, some folks like horses, cats or dog. Me, I like fishing with a rod and a fly. Yes, fishing is a favorite pastime of mine. If I couldn't do it, I think I would cry. Well, life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Trout is rising in the far eddy. I make a false cast, then take my aim. If he takes the fly, I feel so much better. And if he doesn't, I'll feel no shame. Stoneflies and caddis and the riffles are plenty. Mayflies courting on fragrant breeze. And cedar wax wings come down from the heaven, wait for their dinner up in the pine trees. The water is cold and my waders leak, and it's raining now on my favorite stream. I'll bear it all, just fish with a feather, so when I sleep I will have a sweet dream. And life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give
Curtis Mayfly for Riffles and Waves. And on today's show we're going to have some video about trout and salmon survival. And trout are important to us for many reasons, not just fishing and sport and everything like that, but they're also important to us as an indicator species. And what an indicator species means is that they show us signs of something good or bad. If you have a little stream near you and it's full of leeches and things like that, there may be something wrong with that stream. Okay. Now, as an indicator species, trout feed on mayflies and insects that are a sign of a healthy stream. So you're going to find trout in a healthy stream, in a healthy system. So that water is clean, pure, and good, and it's cold. So trout need those things to survive. Now, Trout Unlimited has been working for this. This is their 50th year. Their anniversary is this year for Trout Unlimited. Trout Unlimited has been working for 50 years to protect and restore and conserve cold water fisheries. That's the mission of Trout Unlimited. So we want to celebrate them this year for having 50 years of cold water conservation. And they've helped trout and salmon survive up to this point. And again, over the last 50 years, we've lost a lot of species. In Idaho, we've lost 7 species of salmon that have been blocked from dams in their migratory route, and spawning runs has played a bad part of their survival. Up in Maine, we're seeing progress made by the removal of dams, and Atlantic salmon are able to swim up the Kennebec now and reach their spawning grounds. So they're coming back from the brink of extinction, and that's a good thing. And but trout and salmon have a tough time at it, especially in this time of global climate change. We're going to be seeing things change, whether one way or the other. But for us, trout are important because they're a sign of clean, cold water. So enjoy today's show, and get out there and do some fishing while you can, and enjoy the clean, cold water that trout are an indicator of.
America's streams and rivers are a vital natural resource, fish their inhabitants. With smaller waters flowing into larger, shallow into deeper, each is a tributary with many dependent upon it, each inheriting its legacy from upstream, and all the while a mirror reflecting the life within and around it. In these waters, trout, salmon, and man are inextricably linked. The cold, clean streams necessary for the trout and salmon's survival are essential for human survival as well. These fish react to environmental damage long before humans can even see or feel the effects of it. When pollution begins to cloud the streams, trout and salmon suffer, warning of damage to the natural environment. These wonderful fish are nature's barometers of the environment, living scientific instruments telling us when the waters and the wildlife habitat around them are unhealthy and at a crucial stage of alert. Hello, I'm Lee Horsley, and I would like to introduce you to an association called Trout Unlimited. It's a conservation organization dedicated to restoring and protecting trout and salmon in our rivers. Both my son Logan and I like to spend time in the outdoors. It's for Logan and generations to come that Trout Unlimited's work needs to continue. By working to save trout and salmon, TU saves whole ecosystems that wildlife depend on and people enjoy. Since 1959, Trout Unlimited has been a guardian of trout and salmon and the waters they inhabit. An organization of over 450 chapters and 75,000 members whose hard work and financial support is vital to this conservation effort. TU is made up of individuals who share a love of fishing and the outdoors, a commitment to conservation, and are dedicated to protect and preserve our natural resources for generations to come. Trout and salmon populations are threatened by changes in the waters in which they live. Water quality in streams throughout America is deteriorating. The causes? Industry, agriculture, timber harvesting, and out-of-control development. Each has contributed to the polluted runoff, acid rain, and silt that are finding their way into many of our finest freshwater streams. Trout Unlimited's headquarters are in Washington, D.C., where an expert staff researches, educates, and campaigns for what seems to be a never-ending fight for cleaner waters. But TU's growing influence begins on a local, grassroots level where much of the hands-on work is accomplished. A good example of TU's local efforts occurs here in the Green Hills of Pennsylvania, one of the nation's largest coal mining regions. Dr. Terry Morrow found that after 40 years of mining, these sites are leaking deadly chemicals into these once vibrant trout streams, turning the waters red with pollution.
In all of Apple,
It becomes acidic, works its way into the groundwater, and eventually pollutes the streams.
the result in the streams is that the water is acidified, which directly affects all the life in the stream. And in addition, the minerals, particularly iron, that is leaching out will precipitate in the stream, creating a coating on all the rocks, which kills all of the insect life, which the fish depend upon for food. So we lose the entire life of the entire stream, really.
So Dr. Morrow and his friends at the Iron Furnace chapter of TU organized an effort to build settling and treatment ponds to purify the water before it reaches Mill Creek.
You can see from the color of the water that the iron is becoming less and less. It's depositing in these holding ponds, and we're removing 80 to 90% of the iron. Only about 10% at best is being now discharged into the stream itself.
The success of the Iron Furnace project is only one of many achievements of TU's local chapters. Along the Cedar River in Michigan, renovating road crossings will reduce sediment and improve spawning. And in Nevada, local Trout Unlimited chapters, working with area ranchers, constructed fences, stabilized stream banks, and replanted uplands to protect the endangered Lahontan cutthroat trout from overgrazing. The Old Pueblo chapter in the White Mountains of Arizona is working to restore the Apache trout's habitat by placing structures in the water that will provide greater cover and help cool the water temperatures. And across the country, local TU chapters are educating young people in the classrooms and in the field. Trout Unlimited is helping to build an awareness of the complex and fragile interdependence between fish, the stream, the environment, and ourselves. The future of our fresh waters depends on a continued commitment from every generation. Trout Unlimited's national staff in Washington is trying to correct decades of unfriendly environmental policies. TU's research has proven that saving endangered habitat is vital not only to the ecosystem, but to the economy as well. Each year, the different strains of Pacific salmon depart the ocean and return to the streams where they were born in a procreation ritual as old as the species. It's one of nature's timeless miracles, a miracle where death spawns life, a miracle where instincts can only be interrupted by man. The fate of the Pacific salmon is imperiled. These fish are a valuable link in nature's food chain. For many animals and people, fishing for salmon is a way of life. By damming, locking, and diverting the river's flow, Pacific salmon in the lower 48 states have been driven to near extinction. Fish hatcheries, once thought to be a solution to disappearing fisheries, are often part of the problem. Gene transfer and pathogens from the introduction of hatchery trout are now thought to be highly damaging to the native and wild trout. In the winter of 1994, the Montana Department of Fish and Game found that 90% of the wild rainbow trout on the Madison River were killed apparently by an outbreak of hatchery-borne whirling disease. Hatcheries also absorb a disproportionate share of public funds. This money could be better spent on stream preservation and restoration. TU's national office continues its fight to influence policy for more intelligent management. Other Trout Unlimited projects include a legendary Montana stream. Norman Maclean spoke eloquently about his beloved Big Blackfoot River in his classic novella, A River Runs Through It. Serious mining had virtually sterilized the stream, but extensive restoration efforts are bringing the Big Blackfoot back to life. Even though the river has experienced the problems created by mining, a new mine is about to be approved at the stream's headwaters. Trout Unlimited is conducting a scientific risk assessment and hopes it will serve as a foundation for possible intervention, as well as educate the public regarding hard rock mining's risk to the fisheries and water quality. In many ways, Trout Unlimited works much like a river itself. The national staff, the local chapters, and their members join to form a powerful force, every individual a tributary to a mighty waterway. Unfortunately, the dynamics of Trout Unlimited do not occur as naturally as the trickles of water that make their way to form the Colorado and Mississippi rivers. It takes years of work and significant funds to maintain the effort. We became conservationists gradually as we saw the outdoors shrink and spoil, when we could no longer return to our favorite streams because the fish were gone, when the wild places where we used to camp had been altered or destroyed. Over time, we realized that a focus on the restoration of the environment, and particularly our waters, has wide consequences. Trout Unlimited seeks to restore and sustain not only the water in our streams, the ground under our feet, the air we breathe, and the creatures with whom we share our habitat, but also our relationship to all of these things. Without your support, the work that must be done to save our waters cannot be done. Your contributions and volunteer efforts are vital to the successful reclamation and maintenance of this precious resource. Contact your local TU chapter for news of projects that are underway, or call the Washington, D.C. office for more membership information. If you've ever spent a beautiful day in the outdoors with your children as I have, please consider contributing to Trout Unlimited's conservation efforts. It's what you do right now that will make a difference for our children and future generations to come. I thank you.
first year of operation, 2006, our first full year of operation, we did almost 90,000 pounds of fish, which is better than 25% of the total state production. Comparatively, for the old system, we used to do about 20 to 25,000 pounds annually, so we tripled or almost quadrupled production on the same amount of water. To raise the kind of fish that we're raising here now in the same amount of water that we used to raise before, we couldn't do it without this huge tank that we're sitting here right here. This is our liquid oxygen tank. For the most part, our DO, our dissolved oxygen, is very good throughout the course of the year. It's just when we get into late July, August, September, when we're carrying our peak biomass or peak pounds of fish on station here, that this baby, we live or die with this thing. We like to maintain it about 80% saturation, we call it. Try to keep it between 7 and 8 parts per million.
8 parts per million?
7 to 8, ideally.
Are they going to test during the week? The water,
yeah, we're going to do a little test here actually with the meter, so you can see the differences between what goes in and what comes out, so you can see that firsthand.
So what is the temperature of the...
Right now we're at about 13.5 degrees Celsius, which is looking at 55, 56 degrees Fahrenheit probably, somewhere thereabouts. We try to maintain that throughout the course of the summer. 4 bulbs each, and it's just an open channel. The water flows through the channel, and as it does, it sterilizes the water that passes through it. It doesn't really kill the organisms that are in there, it just sterilizes them so they can't reproduce. Basically makes them ineffective as pathogens. Basically a simple rectangular box, if you will. Very efficient at what it does. The oxygen from that bulk tank outside is injected. Basically, we don't need the heat here in this tank. See the hose line there. And as the water percolates down through these channels in this chamber, it provides the most optimum efficiency use of oxygen being absorbed into the water that you can get. We use a few backpacks where they're actually hiked in on foot and packed in that way. Those fish are usually very small. Probably looking at no bigger than a couple inches or so. We use these big trucks. This is our mainstay, if you will. This is where the majority of the stocking is done. If we can't get into a body of water with this big truck, that's what we have the four-wheel drive for. There are some waters that we have or need to utilize four-wheel drive access. And this one here is set up with what we call an oxygen system backup. We need some means to help us out during emergency situations. If the truck were to mechanically shut down on us, we need to make sure the fish are going to survive, hopefully. And one of the ways we do this is with this oxygen system backup. This is where our technology is headed in the state. Not only does this back up our system, but it also shortens some of our trip loads up, if you will, because we can carry more pounds of fish per tank because the O2 is on board.
Another advantage to these round tanks, each tank has a fresh batch of water. In a linear raceway situation where I'll show you some pictures here in a minute, each step down in the raceway line has a decrease in water quality. This system here, each tank is a brand new batch of fresh water stored. The original design of this tank farm had none of these extensions they can see. So the water came from this manifold, dropped into the tank. There was probably a 1-foot differential. We had some issues last September. We were actually lost 2 fish due to oxygen depletion. And we found out that we were losing 20 to 30% for oxygen bleeding off. When you're running on the edge, every little bit helps. So that's why we did the extension, jumping into the water. It's got nice color. See some nice orange red bellies. A lot of people say that they can tell the difference between a stock trout and a native trout. Sometimes it's very difficult. They pull it up like this.
That's the way to fish.
That's where I can catch it.
Good, one outside. The average was 23.7. Each sample count was 5 kilos each, so we divide that by 5. So each fish, or each kilo was, I should say, 4.7 fish per kilogram. Okay? We know how many fish we need. We need 200 fish. We take the 200 fish, divide by the 4.7. Came up to 43 kilograms total for the 200 fish. We threw in 3 samples at 5 kilograms each. That was 15. We threw in one and we didn't count. That was 20. Subtract 20 from the 43. We need an additional 23. Okay? Make sure you study your math.
Right now. Ready, Sam? Good job.
Don't let the bucket in the water. Keep the bucket above the water.
Going out as far as you can.
Hey, look how close they're coming.
With the sound of music.